so we're going to go ahead then and get started. So my name is Dr. Sherry Castro Atwater, and I am the director of all of the Masters in Counseling programs here at Loyola Marymount University. I have been here since 2014, so it's been a while. And prior to that, I was a professor of counseling at Cal State LA for 11 years. And I will have my colleague, Dr. Marianne Francis, go ahead and introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Marianne Francis, the Assistant Director of all the programs, which we will go over. I have been here since 2018, I believe. I've been teaching here for about 4 years, from classes all the way from the beginning of the journey, all the way to the field work, which is the internship, towards the end of the program. And I am now the assistant director as well, but I am still teaching alongside Dr. Atwater.
Yes, so together we are going to walk you through our counseling programs, but we want to begin by saying welcome and thank you for joining us today. So if you are here, you've made the right decision, because I know we have a graduate open house filled with plenty of graduate school options for you, for your career, but never, I think this goes without saying, has there been a time more important to think about the field of counseling. It is, a huge need. It was a huge need before the pandemic, especially now. I think we can all kind of share a sense of the need for that in schools, in communities. And here at LMU, we have a very flexible program that we're going to walk you through and talk to you about today. And save your questions, because we will have a time for question and answer towards the end. And if I'm going too fast, forgive me. I do want to kind of have some Q&A time. So I just want to make sure that we get to that. All right, so you can see our brag sheet right here, bragging about our rankings. We are a very well-established program here in Southern California. We've been around over 45 years. And we have several different options, whether you want to be a clinical mental health counselor working in a clinic or private practice, whether you want to be a school counselor and that's your love, K-12, or whether or not you want to work in college advising and college career, higher education counseling, we have that option as well. We also, as of about 4 or 5 years ago, are the only program in Southern California to offer the child welfare and attendance add-on authorization. So it's an advanced authorization that you kind of tack on to the pupil personnel services credential in school counseling. So any of you wishing to be school counselors, you can do that concurrently in our program if you're coming in. You can also do that as a community member from anywhere you are, as long as you have a valid PPS credential. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. So we're going to spend time today just making sure you come away with the knowledge that you need about who we are, what our program stands for, mission and goals, what the different specialization tracks are, because that's something that I think attracts a lot of folks to our program in particular. Not every counseling program is as flexible with all of their offerings. So sometimes you have to declare, I want to be a school counselor. I want to be this, and then it's pretty rigid coming in. We are purposely avoiding that model because we know that to us, a counselor is an identity, and the setting is secondary to what we teach in terms of all of the skills that you need to be effective, no matter what setting you're in. So we also realize that you might come in thinking you want to be one type of counselor, and after a semester or two, you're talking to your buddies in the class, and you're feeling like maybe this is something that you want to talk to your advisor about, maybe switching programs or switching master's tracks. And we do allow you to do that as long as it's before the internship, at least a semester before the internship. You have that flexibility. We'll go over a little bit of the program coursework just very quickly, and then we'll launch into what all the student supports that we offer. So we are very student-centered. It's very focused on getting you the supports you need at all different levels of the program. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll end with what's next, things that you can do to kind of bolster your application. We'll talk a little bit about what you need and any supports that you need along the lines until we see you again, hopefully on the other side as part of our programs. All right. So I'll walk through briefly all of us. I think I just introduced myself. I've been a counselor, educator, and professor for almost 20 years, going on 19 years. We talked a little bit about Dr. Francis, and then we also have full-time faculty in our program that are experts in their field. So Dr. William Parham is a professor who's been with us for about 10 years. And he's specifically devoted now to starting a trauma center, which I think some of you might be interested in working with as you are here. He teaches the trauma and crisis class for us, the foundations of counseling. So he's one of our main faculty. We also have Dr. Fernando Estrada. And if those of you are interested in research or presenting at conferences or getting involved in the field in that way, perhaps using a master's program like ours as a launching or stepping stone for our doctoral program, any of that, Dr. Estrada is your person, because they will go over all of the options with you. He also loves to take students on as research fellows. So that we're thrilled to have him with us. And again, I think he's been with us as well for over 10 years. Dr. Maya Hoskin is our newest addition to our faculty. So she has been here since 2019 and most recently just took a tenure line position as assistant professor. She will teach a myriad of courses as well, multicultural counseling. She teaches lifespan development. And you'll see that a lot of us, the 4 full-time faculty that we have, teach everywhere, as Dr. Francis was saying, from the beginning of the program all the way up through fieldwork. So you'll see a lot of us. All right, so here is our full-time, technically staff, but they are very, very well versed in the program's ins and outs. So Dr. Francis, you have just met. Miss Esther Gabriel is our fieldwork and community outreach liaison. This is another perk. There's a lot of programs when you get to the internship level, you're kind of on your own and you're forced to kind of seek out an internship, much like a job opportunity. Esther is your go-to person. She will connect you with all of the resources you need a semester before you need them. She'll walk you through what opportunities there are, how to search for these positions. She'll continuously remind you about opportunities in the field for internships. So we're very lucky to have her full-time support in that. And then Dr. Mike, Dr. Sersosimo, we just call him Dr. Mike. He is wonderful. I think Dr. Francis knows just how much our students rely on him for everything. So he's the person that will sit down with you. He's got a wonderful online calendar, so you can just reach him anytime, see when he's available, quick chat with him, and he gives you an academic plan. So one of the benefits of coming to our program is that we are not a cohort program. So we don't have a strict sequence of classes you need to take. Rather, we kind of leave that in your advisor's hands, because only you know how you're juggling family and work responsibilities with this program. If you need to be full-time for financial aid, which is taking at least 2 classes at the graduate level, not 3, but 2 to be considered full-time, and then to be, to qualify for financial aid. Or maybe you'd rather take it slow, or maybe you want to get out quickly and use the semesters. So Dr. Mike works with each and every one of you individually, and you lay out a plan for your time here, and then it's adjusted each semester as needed, if needed. All right, so that's a little bit of our family. We kind of consider ourselves a counseling family. And I think every single person that I work with in this program is here for the right reasons. We're all here because we want to support students, and we really get a joy out of seeing your professional growth.
And just to add, Dr. Atwater,
yes,
and all of our part-time faculty as well, we have such a great team of part-time faculty, each handpicked for their classes. They come with a myriad of experiences and background in the content that they're teaching. So we do take quite a bit of time kind of filtering through who will be our instructors for each of our courses. So that's just something I wanted to add about our part-time faculty as well.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of them are full-time counselors in the field, so they're able to bring that real world kind of practice into their coursework. And we'll talk a little bit about how and why they can do that and how that's set up in a minute. A lot of times people are wondering, what about student supports? If you're not a cohort program, how do I feel supported? Or like, I know I'm going to see the same people. So you will, if you start around the same time, those of you who might choose to start with us spring 2023, maybe summer 1 2023. We also have probably our biggest group in every fall of 2023. So there's 3 different options to begin the program. You'll begin roughly with the same folks, and you'll start seeing them over and over again. But a few years ago when I came on, the first thing I noticed was when becoming program director that we didn't have an established student association. And so since I was a faculty advisor at my previous university, I thought, well, let's start it. So we have a Counseling Graduate Student Association that any of our students in any of the tracks can join. It's completely free. We have an opportunity. So if you're one of those folks who really enjoys leadership roles, who wants to get involved, to get to know professors and administrators on a whole other level, we encourage you to join and become an officer. So right now we kind of have an advisory board, but we're hoping that by the spring semester, we might have people interested in taking president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. So we meet monthly and we create informal monthly social gatherings. We do a lot of them before or after classes. Since the classes are offered in the evenings, we have 2 time slots for classes, 4:30 to 7, right? And 7:15 to 9:45. So in and around those times are a lot of times where our students who are often commuting, will be on campus. And coffee social hours. In the past, we've done buddy mentor sign up. So we paired a first year student with a second or third year. Holiday parties. I think what's the latest, Marianne? We're going on a hike November 6th.
Yes, we're going on a hike, and they just finished going out for tacos, actually.
That's right. What we advertise it, want to talk about it.
Walk and talk about it.
But we liked it. But yes, so there's a lot of opportunities to get involved and a lot of social activities. And this is deliberate because we know that, again, with at the graduate level, a lot of times family and work, gets in the way. Maybe you're here only 1 or 2 times on campus. So we really try to make this, an elevated voice for the students and a community and a social space for all of you. So if you are admitted to the program and interested in joining, Dr. Maryanne Francis here would be the one to just shoot her an email and say, I'm interested, and we'll add you to our list. And again, it's completely free and it's for the students. All right. So a little bit about what makes our program unique. So starting at the bottom here, hopefully and you've chosen what you want to do in terms of the tracks, but again, we are flexible. So you can come in on one of these specialization tracks and not necessarily stick with that in the end, right? So we've had students of all different tracks think, oh, I thought I was going to have more time for my degree, but then I start a family and, I have to, I think I'm going to do the guidance and counseling track because that's what I can handle, or vice versa. They come in knowing they want to be a college counselor, and then they realize that for just a few extra units, they could also get their PPS credential. So they invest that extra time. So you don't have to know right off the bat. You just have to mark something that you think and you can stick with that if that's what you love, but you can also talk to the advisor about changing. So the guidance and counseling is the master's program, 41 units. And again, it's offered specifically for those who want to go into higher education counseling or college advising. Then we have the K-12s. Some of you are here because a school counselor made a huge difference in your life or didn't. We've also had the opposite where never again do I want any student to go through my lack of counseling in high school, or I wish I had had someone, more like me now. So either way, if you know that that's what you want to do, then the PPS 48 unit option is for you. Then I would highly suggest you consider adding on the additional 9 units, the 1 semester of the child welfare and attendance option. That makes you much more marketable and eligible for large districts like LAUSD, who pay extra for counselors to have that CWA add-on authorization. And again, we are one of the only programs in Southern California to offer that as a standalone program as well as embedded within a master's. All right, and the final program is the Master's in Clinical Counseling. This is what we encourage almost all of our students to do if they can, because it offers the PPS credential with or without. If you want to work with students, but you may not want to, the 60 unit allows you to get the PPS credential. It allows you to be eligible for licensure as a licensed professional clinical counselor, or LPCC. It's much like the MFT, right? So it's very similar, but it's really focused on individual children, potentially work with couples and families, but really focused on that clinical aspect. So if you want to be in private practice, if you want to work in a mental health clinic, if you want to be a school counselor, but do that on the side, that would be the option for you. We do have students doing the 60-unit LPCC, PPS, CWA, and they joke that they feel like they're never going to end, but it does, it will end, and they were so well equipped coming out of the field. So all of these options are available to you, and it really is just a matter of knowing what you want to do and recognizing that you may change your mind, and that's okay. What I also want to go over is this idea of professional competencies and dispositions. So this is a professional degree program. It's not a master's degree in physics or accounting or philosophy. It really is working on being the best person that you can be. So almost all of our classes have a self-reflection component where you focus on things like, how warm are you? How caring do you come across? Are you punctual? Do you have leadership potential? Are you responsible as a performer, as a professional, but also as a human? Do you use the data that's given to you to make decisions? Can you take feedback well? So all of the people skills that likely most of you have been told that you're good at your whole life, which is why you're here, those will be useful here. This is the program for you if you have people skills and you want to enhance them and know how to use them intentionally and effectively. So we spend a lot of time in every course going over that. We also have an opportunity to recognize that our program is grounded in the Ignatian pedagogy paradigm. So we are a Jesuit university and we're grounded in what we call cura personalis, or care of the whole person. So this is really grounded in that Jesuit Marymount tradition of social justice, and recognizing that our whole goal is to work with those who are the most vulnerable and who are in need of social justice approaches. We also recognize that when we look at the whole person, everyone has strengths. A lot of times when students will come or clients will come to us, we have a medical model. We focus on the deficits of each person and what's wrong with you. What's your problem, right? Why are you here? Well, the teacher sent me here. So there's a lot of focus on the weakness or what we see as an evaluative problem within the client or student. So we really in this program want to, take that stigma and that idea of that being what a counselor does. We want to take that away. A counselor focuses on finding what works, finding the strengths in each person. So even if a student has an F and that's why they're there to see you, you're going to work on learning that they love skateboarding and they're a master at it, or video games. They're really good at it. So there's always another side to a person. When you can connect to those strengths and give them credit for the strengths that they have, right? Then you're more likely to work with them successfully and they're more likely to be effective. So just that warm, caring approach is a huge part of what we do. And you'll see that that IPP, or Ignatian pedagogy paradigm, in every syllabus. And then just working on our personal and professional identity, knowing thyself before helping others, recognizing that we all come into the world with biases. We have to know what they are. We have to work on them actively. We have to practice cultural humility, access our ignorance about a person in front of us instead of assuming. So all of that is a continual journey. I tell my students, I don't like the word, the phrase cultural competence, because I don't think any of us are ever going to reach that. It's a journey, right? So practicing cultural humility allows you to make mistakes and to recognize that you're learning alongside your client. You're learning, and the client is the expert, right, in their own life, not you. So that's, like, in a nutshell, what we are, what we stand for. And just keeping in mind, as a professional graduate school, we're both focused on, yes, the academic A or the B, or, you do need to have a B or better to meet competency, but we're just, if not more, focused not only on your academic skills, but on your people skills, your professional skills. And that's what we're looking for. Every single professor, whether it's an adjunct faculty member, a full-time professor, we want to give you that letter of recommendation. We want to be that professional reference for you. So the minute you walk in the door, that's how we expect, to see you and your skills, to celebrate your strengths. All right, so a little bit about what our program looks like. It largely depends on you. How do you want to your professional development journey to go in this program? We have students who take every summer opportunity. And yes, it's true. We offer not one, but 2 summer semesters, which sounds impossible, but it's not, because we take summer 1 semester, which is offered mid-May through the end of June, 6 weeks. And immediately after that, summer session 2, semester 2 starts, and it begins first week of July till mid-August. And then our fall semester begins the end of August. So if you are one of those folks who wants to get, summer classes in, maybe take 2 or 1 or 2 each semester, it's a lot. You give up a summer, but you definitely get ahead in terms of the classes that you're going to take. So that's an option. It's not required. No summer classes are required. So you start with the basics. You start with counseling theories, counseling micro skills, otherwise known as helping skills, where we have you counsel a peer in your class, and they you, so that you can kind of see how you're doing and be vulnerable alongside them. And then you kind of move on to the intermediate courses, and those are courses that need prerequisites. So this would be like multicultural counseling, culturally responsive counseling with individuals, clinical courses, practicum, group counseling. So we try to prepare you so that you're not the deer in headlights, right? You're very well versed and well prepped for each course that you take. And then of course it ends with fieldwork. And this is the primary difference between a lot of our programs you'll see here. If you are in the guidance and counseling track, so you're going to be a higher education master's, that's what you're going for, then your fieldwork is 1 semester, 200 hours in a higher education institution. Everyone else, if you are in school counseling or mental health, you are looking at 2 semesters, right? So everyone else, it's 2 semesters, a full year internship is what it typically looks like. If you're mental health only, so you're going for the LPCC, your internship will be in a mental health clinic or with a mental health agency that partners with schools. If you're a school counselor, you'll of course be in a district. And right now, currently, it's still 600 hours, so 300 hours per semester. For everyone beginning fall 2022 and later, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing has increased that to 800 hours, so 400 hours per semester. So a large part about what our fieldwork liaison does is they prep you. This is work. This is often unpaid work. So it's 1 year of your life. You want to be prepared for it financially, emotionally. Who is your support system? Do they all recognize the importance of this year for you, that you're not too stressed about other things going on? But at that point, if your life has changed, we also work with you in terms of maybe, postponing it if need be, or working with you on how you can complete those hours. So there's always the possibility at any point to talk to your advisor about, oh, my life has shifted, it's changed, this is what I want to do now. So we kind of pride ourselves on being flexible in that way, to work with you and your current life. This is the IPP that I mentioned earlier. You will see this at the end of every syllabus, just reminding all of us that this program is unique from other programs, perhaps any state programs you might be looking at, and that we really are guided by this signature. Changing lives is really what we're all about. It's not just learning, but changing lives, and doing that through contextual experience and self-reflection and action, and getting you out of the classroom whenever we can. So our group counseling and our individual counseling courses are often at a school site or at a site off campus, so that you can work directly counseling under supervision. And that's all prior to your internship, so that when you get to your internship, you are feeling pretty confident about your counseling skills. All right, so the nitty-gritty of logistics. What do the courses look like? In the fall and spring, as I mentioned, classes are once a week. They're held usually after at least school hours, not necessarily work hours, but school hours. So the early classes are offered 4:30 to 7, and the later class is offered 7:15 to 9:45. If you are somebody who only wants to be on campus 1 day a week, perhaps you work with your advisor to take 2 what we call back-to-back classes on 1 day. Or if you don't learn that way, or you can't get off work in time for an early class, then maybe you take 2 classes, on a Tuesday, 7:15 and Thursday, 7:15, and each of them meets once a week. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of what works with your life, with your long-term plan, but that's what it looks like. And to be considered full-time student to qualify for any financial aid, it is not 3, it is 2 classes a semester. Taking 3 is a heavy load. People do it. Never attempt to take 4. This is not undergrad. It's completely different. There's a number of hours of work associated with each unit at the graduate level. So do make sure that you're never looking at more than 3 classes per semester. And starting out with 2 is advisable. And it's, again, considered full-time. If you choose to, some of us take the summer off. You're a student who just wants the summer with your family, or you want to travel, which is fine. If you don't, if you want to engage in the summer classes, just know that they are shorter, which means they're more intense. So instead of being offered 1 time a week, they meet twice a week, right, for 6 weeks. So the fall and spring semesters are 16 weeks, once a week. The summer semesters are each 6 weeks, meeting twice a week. And the class time slots are very similar, 4 to 7, 7 to 10. Here's something we pride ourselves on too, the average class size. Whoops, I'm back there. 15 to 20 students is what the average is. So for some of us who went to big state schools, this is going to be a huge relief. You get a lot more individual attention. You get to know your faculty very, very well. And for clinical courses, so group counseling, culturally responsive counseling, helping skills, they are capped at either 8, 12, or 14. The internship fieldwork class is capped at 8. So very, very small, because of course the clinical courses are where you're practicing your clinical counseling skills and you need a lot of feedback and a more intimate setting. All right. Everyone does begin on provisional status. We don't want to waste your time, and we want to know that you're committed. And so everyone needs to get a B or better in every class that they take in order to meet competency. And in addition to that, we also require a disposition form. This is because occasionally we let in could be a straight A student who looks great on paper, but for whatever reason, their people skills, which are so essential for counseling, are not developed enough to the point where they feel comfortable counseling, and they learn about themselves. And we have them rate, and we have everybody rate themselves disposition wise, because since that is such an important aspect. And then the other disposition form comes from any instructor of your choice during that first semester who knows you well. And again, most of our students use the disposition form as a letter of reference or as a recommendation. So most of you will do very well. Occasionally, though, it's used as kind of a red flag for again, those few students who might need that extra attention to dispositions outside of academics. All right. So here's what you will end up looking, your course kind of schedule or the sequence. You'll begin with peer-to-peer counseling. So these are sessions that are often recorded so that the supervisor or the instructor can give you feedback week to week. And we don't throw you in. We go over the skills, we practice, we focus on strengths, and we get you comfortable. So by the end of helping skills, people are usually terrified when they come in. Oh, I'm going to be recorded. I'm going to be counseling someone. I don't know how to do this. And this is my peer. What if I mess them up? Right? There's a lot of anxiety, questions, nerves. And by the end of this course, it is just a huge difference in confidence level. And usually, you're in the right program if you finish helping skills and you're excited. That's why both Dr. Francis and I vie over who's going to teach helping skills, because we love that class so much, because there's just so much growth in one semester. Once you're comfortable there, then we continue you on with the culturally responsive, or CRC, clinical class. And that's where I'm teaching that now, where every person, I have 10 students in the class, every one of those 10 students has been matched with a volunteer they've never met, and have to walk them through counseling over 6 sessions on Zoom. So it's a very intense class. And again, lots of feedback, lots of support. These are volunteers, so they know that you're being trained. All of this is to help support you so that when you are ready for your internship, you'd be surprised. Some other programs where you'll meet, at that level, students will say, oh, I've never actually counseled anyone on my own. And so we don't want that. We want you to feel confident and comfortable with that process. So we definitely, our highlight, I would say, of our program is the focus on clinical skills, even for higher education counseling, college advising. Sometimes those are where the skills are most needed, right? So we really focus on getting you confident with your clinical skill usage. Comprehensive exam, I guess is not unlike most programs. We, in lieu of a master's thesis, we require a comprehensive exam. So save all your syllabi. We have you form study groups. We'll instigate that for you. And it covers all the 12 core content areas of the classes that you're taking. So you can take the comp exam whenever you are ready and finishing up with your internship. You can take it in the fall, you can take it in the spring, you can take it in the summer. And Dr. Francis is really great at coordinating that with each of you. Let's say you don't pass the comp exam. The sections that are not passed, you're allowed to retake. So I know some of our students have test anxiety, and it really builds up at a most critical point when they're in their internship and they're stressed out. So knowing that, I think sometimes relieves the stress. It's not the end of the world. If you don't pass every section, you can simply retake. All right, some of you might have a question about how do I get involved and also make money, right? Which is a very legitimate question at this graduate level. So it depends on if you're interested in research or just being a graduate assistant in some other department, or whether you're interested in potentially being a teaching assistant. All three are options for you. So talk to the faculty about your ideas. If you're interested in research, Dr. Estrada is probably the go-to faculty member I would recommend. Check out his page and our pages on our, what we publish in, where we present. And if you're interested in partnering on a project that we have going, you just, inquire about that. And if you're interested in TAing, make sure you've gotten an A in a course and simply email one of the full-time faculty and say, hey, I just took your helping skills course. I would love to see if I can TA for you. And so these are all three paid positions. And then finally, a GA, a graduate assistant. We have a LMU graduate assistant link that will take you. I think you've probably just heard about this if you're coming from the open house general session, but you basically will be placed in any program that's not the counseling program. So anything that's, on campus that makes it easy for you to come and work and then stay would be an option. And again, it's not the counseling program because sometimes GAs are responsible for looking at final exams or, some kind of materials for the course. We do always send a few students each year that are interested. They just something sparks their interest to go on for a PsyD, a PhD, an EDD. We have a lot of EDD students. So if that's something that is of interest to you, always reach out to any of us and we can help you, talk about the differences between the three, excellent programs for you, depending on what state you're interested in, etc. People also ask about scholarships. So if you're interested in scholarship, notice Cassidy Alvarado, her smiling face right there. One time I did this open house presentation and I failed to mention that Cassidy works with current students only. So when I finished, I got a note from her a few weeks later, like, these applicants look great, but none of them are current students yet, so they can't apply for scholarships. So just note this, if you choose to come here and you're admitted to the program, and when you're here, do reach out, because every year Cassidy does say to me, I have counseling, scholarships that went unclaimed, like send your students over. So I will work with them. So she's a friendly face in our Office of National and International Fellowships on campus. All right. I did mention that anyone taking the 48 unit or the 60 unit with PPS options for master's degrees can do the Child Welfare and Attendance program. And like I mentioned, it's an authorization that tacks on to your Pupil Personnel Services credential. Once you get it, it's renewable every, I believe it's 5 to 7 years, and you just kind of make sure you continually, renew your credentials, and that comes along with it. It's offered on 1 semester. You can also, if you're a current student, do it 2 semesters, but usually it's done in 1 semester. It's offered Saturdays. To make it easy, we have one of the Saturdays be in person. One of the Saturdays is entirely on Zoom, and the other 2 remaining Saturdays of the month are asynchronous. So in a 16-week semester, you'll meet 4 times in person, 4 times on Zoom, and the other 8 times you'll go at your own pace work. So it's deliberately intended to be a hybrid program for working professionals, as well as our very, very busy intern students at that level. It requires 150 hours. However, 30 of those hours need to be outside of the school setting. The other 120 can be within the school setting. So if you are enrolled either in your school counseling internship or you're working as a school counselor, you can count 120 of those hours by simply highlighting everything that has to do with child welfare or child attendance to get the credit for those additional hours. If you're interested in the CWA program after this open house, please let either one of us know, Dr. Francis or myself, and we'll connect you with additional resources and information. All right. Okay, so the counseling program, what if you still have questions? The first place I'm going to, if you haven't already seen it, is to, kind of connect you with our website. So if you go to https soeschoolofeducation.lmu /academic/counseling, and then you see the little link that says why choose us. Take a look at all of the resources we offer. Under resources, you will see all of our counseling program handbooks, and little fun bedside reading. You can always flip through our handbook and get to know our program really, really well. If you have questions specifically related to the application process, you can email soeinfo@lmu.edu and get your questions answered, or they may direct you to one of us. And if you have questions related to our counseling or CWA program specifically after this open house today, feel free to reach out to either myself or Dr. Francis. Our email is right there. Okay. So questions related to any of this, I'm going to expand my screen so I can see if there's anybody who has questions so far. I know I kind of went through that very quickly. Questions? Okay. And so what I'm going to do now is to just, first of all, remind you we are all here for you. We want to see students succeed. We welcome a diverse applicant pool always, and we really are here to support you, beginning with this application process all the way through the program. So here is our, our faculty, full-time faculty and staff in a nutshell. And like Dr. Francis said, we have easily over 15 to 20 adjunct faculty who are directly working in the field, bringing their expertise into their courses as well. And that is that's the dog and pony show that I have for you today. But I do want to see, since we have a little bit extra time, I'm all about the twofer. And I know that a lot of us are, finishing the chat and we're thinking of the relaxation playlist we're going to create. I also want to take this opportunity for you to talk one-on-one with a potential applicant. So just for about a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to connect you randomly in a breakout room. And I just want you to talk to this, fellow applicant or potential applicant on a scale of 1 to 10. How excited are you to apply to the program? Do you have any questions? When I do this, I find people come back with questions that they didn't think that they had. Something about just getting to know someone really quickly and their reasons for being interested in the program, helps us prime our brain for questions. And if you have time with these extra few minutes, get to know your assigned partner. Just what is one fun thing you did this summer, favorite food, favorite book, and feel free to exchange contact information if you feel you have enough time to do that, because sometimes it's helpful just to have a buddy even through the application process to kind of talk something through. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that now, just a few minutes. And let me see, let me make sure that I am host and that I can do this. Breakout rooms, yes, here we go. So I will go ahead and get us down to about 2 participants per room, and we'll go ahead and create them now. So you should see an opportunity to do that. Again, 3 or 4 minutes, just introduce yourself. And let's see, room 2. Okay, and I'm going to, I'll drop this in the little message.
I think we have some people alone.
Oh, okay.
Denise, can I move Denise to room
Yes.
2?
Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. I tried to move,
Oh, we have somebody else coming in.
I moved somebody that was in room 13 by themselves to room 2 with you.
Okay, I'm gonna move.
Oh yeah, no, I think we're good. Are we go? Oh no, Mia. Let's see.
I was in the breakout room with someone and it logged me out.
Oh no, Mia, I can see you. It says, okay, so were you with Rachel? Does
I
that
think
sound-
so.
Okay, let's reassign you. We're gonna go right there. There you go. Do you see it?
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry about that, Mia.
Melinda's by herself too in room 10.
Okay, hang on. Let's see.
I think because Letitia's.
Oh, okay. So let's move her maybe to room 2 as well. Let's try that. There, I just did that. Okay.
Sorry about that. I wasn't sure if I should join or not.
Oh,
I'm
no
with
worries.
graduate admissions.
Yeah,
so-
no, that's fine. That's
yeah,
fine.
okay. Sure. yeah, you
Absolutely.
can
No,
move
yeah,
me
you don't need to
whoever
join. I
someone
actually, yeah,
Okay.
we just took care of it. So no worries at
Okay.
all.
Thank you.
Sure. And then let's see. Hi, Amitsa. So let's see if we can add you as well.
Amitsa, did you just join right now or?
I've been rotating around a few open houses. I came.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Period.
So all we're doing is kind of getting to know a little tiny group of folks. So I'm going to, if that's okay, I'm going to move you to a room and just introduce you. We're just talking about how excited are you about, LMU and, graduate studies and the counseling. We're in the counseling program. So and then we'll come back together in a few minutes. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So you'll be with Mia and Rachel. Okay. So.
Okay, everyone has.
Somebody? Okay. Okay, and I just broadcast the message of what I was having them do. I don't know. I just feel like twofers,
Oh yeah,
they get to know each other a little bit.
absolutely.
Particularly because we couldn't get students this go round to come. Usually I would use that time for them to ask, student questions, but.
We have 2 questions in the chat too.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me see what it. Okay, 2 questions in chat. Let's see.
All right, so
Okay, so I will reach out to everyone in meeting and when they come back. Okay, so it looks like Alexandria had to leave, the one who asked the question about, are you still able to work in college settings with clinical?
oh, did she leave?
Yeah, three.
Oh, there's another Alexandra. Okay.
Are there 2?
Yeah.
So the one who asked the question was the same one who left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Whoops. That should have been a period. Okay, and then the other question, remind me of the time because I know I don't want to keep them there forever, but to Diana's question, the clinical.
How long did we say for them?
I said 3 to 4 minutes. So I'll stop it and maybe right after I answer to Diana's question, the LPCC clinical counseling program, would you say that's it's usually typically takes 2 to 3 years, closer to 2 if
I guess it depends.
If you take summer classes, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think now would be a good time.
Okay, let me do that.
Thank you for all your help, Emily.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right, so in about 40 seconds, we're going to have everybody back. So welcome back if you have just joined us. Going to give everybody a chance to come back and say our final thank you and answer some questions if we can. All right, welcome back if you're joining us. We've got about 20 more seconds and we'll have everybody back. And then Caesar, I see your hand is up, so I'll take your question as soon as everybody's back, because chances are you're not alone in asking it. So I want to make sure everybody's here. So about 15 more seconds, we'll have everybody. And meanwhile, if you were one of the folks who put a question in the chat, go ahead and look. Diana had the question, can you do the master's in clinical counseling? Oh, here, I'll just wait for one more second. Okay, so everybody's back. Welcome back. Hopefully that was a little chance to connect with someone that you have not met before and get a little support in that regard. So we'll take questions now that maybe you didn't think about until you've joined your partner. And the first thing I want to mention is there were 2 questions in the chat. One was about how long does the clinical counseling program take? Does it still take about 2 years? And Diana, I believe you asked that question. It can. It all depends on if you take summer classes or not. So it's closer to 2 years than 3. It's probably average 2.5, closer to 2 years if you take summer classes. And if you take, 2 classes in summer 1 and 2 in summer 2, both summers you can finish in 2. So it all just depends on working with your advisor on that. And then someone else, Alexander, asked, what if you get the master's 60-unit program? Can you still work in a higher ed setting? Yes. So you can work that way. So if you're overqualified, right, in terms of being a mental health counselor, you can always work in a higher ed setting. In fact, those skills are often very useful. And Cesar, I see your hand is up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to have a few in here so I can just maybe do a couple and then wait.
Chances are you're not alone.
Great. I was wondering if you have any data on what is the employment rate for the graduates of this program, and if you have any expected salary ranges that they do from here.
Yeah. So I think probably, so first the answer is pretty much all of our students find employment. It's very rare. I think there might have been 1 year in 2015 where students were contacting me in the summer saying, oh, I still haven't found a full-time position yet. Almost everybody finds a position post-pandemic. That has not been an issue for any of our graduates. Assuming that you do well in this program, you will not have a problem with employment. There's a national dearth of counselors, particularly in California right now. So of all of the different professions, it's definitely on the rise. So the growth rate is much bigger than other professions right now. In terms of salary, it all depends on what your setting is. So typically an LAUSD, school counselor which is, a lot of our students, school counselors are employed there. It really, really does range depending on your experience. I know that there were 2 students a couple of years ago who freely shared their salary with me, and they would be about 2 years in, making 90, 95. In the school setting. I don't know what that's like in the mental health side, but if you're in private practice, of course, it takes a little bit more time to establish a practice. When you join the master's program 60 units of the LPCC, just keep in mind it's exactly like an MFT. So you will graduate, but you won't have your license yet. You'll still have to do supervised hours in a clinic. And those supervised hours may or may not be paid. Typically, there's a small stipend, but so you'll still have a little bit more time. If you're in our program as a school counselor, the PPS credential is immediate. So upon graduation, you will be employable as a school counselor. So for that reason, a lot of our students choose to do both since it's 60 units. They want to do the LPCC, but they know they want to be employed while they're getting their licensure hours. So they'll be employed as a school counselor and then work on their hours, sometimes on the side, or sometimes they'll have a supervisor at the school that can sign off on their hours. So I hope that answers a little bit of the, yeah. Any other questions that people might have that they came up with maybe in their partner groups? And don't be shy. This is a great opportunity to ask anything else. So I think I went over that there are 3 opportunities to join the program. So we have what we call rolling admissions, which is another, I think, perk for some of our students who aren't necessarily interested in waiting until fall 2023 to start. You can start in the spring. That would mean that you would be interviewing this fall. You can also start in summer 1, not summer 2, but summer 1. We can have folks joining us during summer 1 as well, which means you would interview and get your application in by the spring deadline.
We do have a few questions in the chat, Dr. Atwater.
Yes. Okay, let's see. So
one of them is the 48-unit school counseling with PPS a 2-year track or a 3-year track typically?
Yeah, the 48-unit typically is 2 years. Yeah, unless you want to extend it and not take summer or at all, or take only 2 classes, then it can extend. You can extend it, but usually that one is about 2 years.
Another question is, are the classes only offered in the later afternoon and evening?
Yes, and this is because our students at the graduate level are almost always kind of busy or working during the day, and they need some commuting time. So 4:30 to 7. And we do have students that just say, I can't learn at 10, 9 o'clock at night. I refuse to take summer, the later classes. And so they will fill up their 4:30 to 7 time slot, maybe 2 days a week they're here. But other than the CWA classes that are offered Saturdays, all of our master's program classes are offered in the afternoon or evening only, and they're not offered Fridays. So it's Monday through Thursday. Yeah.
And just to add, the modality of that child welfare and attendance add-on authorization that's held on Saturdays, they are all hybrid.
Right. So we talked about once a month in person, and the other Saturdays are more flexible. Yeah.
Actually, there is a question, are there any online options?
There are. In fact, more and more, I think we have up to 5 classes a semester that are offered as online only. And then we have other classes that are hybrid. So it's a combination of coming in person or over Zoom. Yeah. And we've done that in direct response to the pandemic. We used to be mostly an in-person program, but now you have options. And we have some classes where they'll have an in-person section or an online section, and you just tell your advisor which one you'd prefer. These are all really great questions. And
what is your admission rate into your programs?
Yeah, I mean, it is a competitive program. We don't require the GRE. We don't, so we do have a more flexible ability. And in general, I think private universities do really count the interview. So when you come to interview, you'll be placed in a group deliberately, and we'll watch you discuss with your peers. So there's a lot of different kind of criteria we have beyond admissions criteria. Typically, we require an undergraduate GPA of 3.0 or above, but we do make exceptions, particularly for those students who might have extensive experience in a related field. We also are much more flexible than some universities because we know sometimes your major as an undergraduate does not coincide at all with what you actually want to do. And so we have had film and media studies majors that just wowed us with the experience they've had or their desire to be a counselor. So we are looking for the right fit, but we're more, I think, broad and open-minded when it comes to fitting a standard mold. So it's competitive, but it's not, don't consider yourself at a disadvantage necessarily if you weren't a psychology major or related field. Okay. And Caesar, I see another question.
Thank you.
Sure.
My second question is, I came from the school psychology program presentation that you guys had early on. And I'm interested in the clinical counseling LPCC plus PPS. what is the difference? Like at the beginning, I was a little bit confused and I was like, can I practice as a school psychologist or how does that makes a difference in there?
Yes. So what you would do is you wouldn't necessarily practice as a school psychologist. It's very confusing because they're very similar in sound. The school psychologist is specifically designed to work in K-12 public schools, and they do largely assessments, intellectual assessments, working with special ed population. They also do counsel students, and they are trained in therapy, but the largest part of their role in a school is to work with IEP, 504 plans, individualized education plans for special students enrolled in special education and gifted, running the gamut of students with special needs. So that's what they do. If you're more interested in clinical therapy and working with students and counseling them directly, academically, socially, emotionally, then the counseling program is the right fit for you. School psychology also has a heavier emphasis on statistics and so measurement, because they're writing a lot of reports, doing a lot of data and assessment of the report writing based on the assessments that they do.
So where would I normally work with the LPCC clinical counseling?
Yes, so you would work either in a mental health clinic that's designed for children or adults. So, I mean, Dee Dee Hirsch takes a lot of our candidates. We've got a lot of different, mental health clinics in the area. And if you were LPCC interested in working with children, but not interested in being a school counselor at the school every day, then you would work with some place like Counseling Partners of LA or Outreach Concern. And these are specific mental health agencies. They take only LPCC candidates, but then they're contracted with schools to provide the mental health services. So they kind of swoop into a school, work weekly with the students for the social emotional counseling component, and then go back to the clinic setting. Yeah. Makes sense? Very good questions. And these are all, it's an opportunity to learn. Anything else? Anybody else have a question?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't raise my hand. But okay, so after you take your courses, it's been 2 to 3 years. And then after that, there's hours, right? That you mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think you
for
mentioned
the LPCC, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay, so that's only for the LPCC.
Yes, it's funny you should say this, because when you ask this question, I'm reminded of a question at one open house. Applicant raised their hand and said, so my dad wants me to pick the master's program where I'm immediately employable. Which one is that? And that's what I always think of. So if you're interested in being a school counselor, the 48 unit track offers the PPS, what we call Pupil Personnel Services credential. It's like a teaching credential, but for counselors specific. Immediately upon graduation, you get that credential, you're employable. So you can start working at your internship site if they love you and they want you there full time as early as 2 months later after you graduate, right? If let's say you graduate in the spring and you start in the fall as a school counselor, you're completely employable. If you are on the mental health track, 60 unit track, it's the longest track, but it also is the only one that offers you licensure eligibility. So it's very similar to Masters in Family Therapy. People think sometimes, I go into an MFT program or I want to be a therapist. When I graduate, I can just be a therapist. But unlike, it actually does require additional supervised hours. So when you graduate with the LPCC option, 60 units, you then put in your paperwork together to get an associate number. They call you I believe it's a professional clinical associate. And then you still have hours to complete under supervision. So you would join a mental health clinic and they would give you hours and a supervisor, and they might not necessarily pay you as much because you're not yet licensed, right? So the license will come after graduation. You would still need those extra hours, much like an MFT or a nurse practitioner, a lot of these other programs that are governed by the Board of Behavioral Sciences in California. But that's why a lot of our students will do both. So we do have a 60 unit option where you can combine them. You can get your school counseling credential, be immediately employable, and also be LPCC eligible. So they might get a school counselor job and then have LPCC hours that they accrue either at their school site or in a clinic. And so because it takes, a year or two post-graduation to get that licensure. Then you sit for the licensing exam, And then when you're licensed, you can go into private practice. You can join a clinic as a counselor, a licensed counselor.
Got it. Okay. And thank you.
Mhm.
Another question. So then, is it impossible or is it hard to work full time and get these hours or?
Post-graduation, you mean?
Yes.
Or yes, post-graduation. Okay, so I would say it all depends on how fast you want to go with your hours. So you have a certain amount of hours post-graduation that you need to complete. And so if you want to work, you know, all in 40 hours a week, you can finish it maybe in 6 months, right? But if you're taking time and you're employed somewhere else and you're doing maybe 5 or 10, seeing 5 or 10 clients a week, right? It's going to take you a year or so more. All an investment, right, in your future. And it depends on what you want to be, what you want, how you see yourself, you know, as a counselor in a certain setting or in the world, you know, what capacity you want to help others. But a lot of our students do end up doing the both option because they can't give up the licensure idea, and that appeals to them, but they do want practice, you know, and they want to be immediately employable as well. And school counselors are always in need, particularly now. So that's never been an issue in terms of employment.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. Anything else? If there is anything else, stay on, I'll answer them. Or Rachel, one more? Yes.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the interview process.
Sorry, the interview?
The interview process.
Oh, the interview process, sure. Yeah. So once your application materials are uploaded, they go through a screening by both myself and Dr. Francis. And if there's, you know, you're meeting the criteria, the minimum criteria, then we will invite you for an interview. They're deliberately group interviews. They're held over Zoom. So there's no more than 6 applicants at a time. And we offer, you know, we have 2 questions. We go over a little bit of our program. We make sure that we have enrolled you in the track that you would, you know, you've preferred, whether it's school, guidance, or mental health. And then we ask you to do a reading prior to the interview, a chapter reading. And we say, okay, we're going to be flies on the wall. You're not going to see our video. Interact as if you would in a graduate class. And what we're looking for there is, of course, the very important personal people skills. How well do you collaborate? How well do you take social cues? Because these are all important things for, you know, for counselors. So that's why we don't do individual interviews. You could be stellar on paper and know how to talk to, you know, your interviewer. But if you're not good at interacting with others, we've, you know, can foresee potential problems. So we want to make sure that you have a chance to shine in that way too. Yes. And then we are notoriously great about getting back to folks. So we know some of you might be shopping around, you might be looking at other programs. So after the interview, it usually takes about a week to 10 days and you'll know our decision because we do have rolling admissions. So it's a little more flexible in how quickly we get back to you. So yeah. And then Cesar, question again.
Yes, so I graduated a few years ago from college. I actually did theater as an undergrad, and I'm currently working as a college counselor at a community-based organization in Lincoln Heights. So I didn't do any child development, any of those classes. Are there any prerequisites for someone that didn't do this kind of track to get into the program?
No, because I think at this point, I mean, yes, there's a prerequisite of a GPA. So you have to, so we're going to look at your GPA, but unlike a lot of state universities who are kind of married to what your major was in, we actually don't require that you have a prerequisite undergraduate courses. The only time we might recommend for folks to take some classes in the field prior to, you know, applying is if your GPA is lower than 3.0 and you need to get it up. Because we count the last 90 quarter units or semester, 45 semester units. So sometimes folks will say, okay, this is a good way for me to boost my GPA because maybe I didn't do as well as I wanted in undergrad, then we'll recommend it, but it's not a requirement. And in fact, we do, I think even this semester, correct me if I'm wrong, Marianne, but we have 2 film studies majors who went on, and what would count, Cesar, what is the significant experience you've had in the field. So that's what we would ask about. And that's what we would kind of, you know, recognize that even though you weren't majoring in this, you have had substantial experience at the community college level as a counselor. So that would certainly help.
And if I need like this kind of like more closer look at my track and what would you guys recommend, I will just submit an email and ask for a one-on-one meeting with So with anyone, or will it have to be with either?
So once
Uh,
you're interviewed and admitted, it would be Dr. Mike would be your go-to advisor, and he has one-on-ones all the time. That's all he does is work one-on-one with our students to make sure they're on the track they want, they're getting the classes they want, they're feeling supported. And then if if you said, oh, I'm interested in, switching tracks, but I really don't know what that entails in the profession, and he feels like myself or one of the faculty would be a good one-on-one with you, he'll refer you. So I talk to students a lot about that, what it looks like in the field, whether or not to get a doctorate, whether or not to go for the LPCC, right? So yeah, so anytime that you have questions, we're here to help with that, because there's a lot of options, and sometimes that can, it can be hard to decipher what you really want.
Thank you.
Once admitted into the program, LMU would send a welcome email, and then I would send a welcome email to connect you with Dr. Mike, who would be the student advisor, and that would be the first step.
Yeah, and that's almost immediate.
I'm pre-getting to the program, like in this process of me applying, if I need to consult with either of you, hey, should I take more classes?
Yeah, email either one of us.
Okay.
Yeah, we can Zoom with
Perfect.
you. Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions, or did I get everything in the shot? Yes. Okay. Antoinette, if you're currently employed with the Regional Center dealing with intellectual disabled adults, can that experience cover? It possibly could. You mean the internship for the LPCC? Yes. So we work with you at the fieldwork level. If you have an idea of where you want to intern, this happens a lot with our school counselors too. They say, well, I don't see that on this list of we have MOUs, approved MOUs with a ton of districts in Southern California and a ton of mental health clinics, but I don't see my clinic of choice on the list, or I don't see my school, my district. Then you just need to let Esther, our fieldwork liaison, know enough weeks in advance, and she'll tell you, if you have an alternative site for your internship and it's not on this list, contact me and we'll set up an MOU if we can, so that we can get that approved. Yeah, so you're not wedded to just our internship opportunities. If you have an idea, you don't want to travel, the school's around the corner from your house, they have an internship open, or this clinic is, something that you have been working with in the past, then you can do that. The only thing you can't do is count your hours doubly. So if you're getting paid to do hours as an employee, right, then you can't turn around and do those for your internship hours. So that's considered a conflict of interest. So that would be a big no from the state's perspective. So we do watch for that, but we want to work with you. So whatever's easiest for you, what your interests are, what your experience is with clinics in the past, we can certainly entertain that. Make sense? And if you have further questions, just reach out about that too, because I can connect you with Esther as well. Okay, other questions or thoughts? Okay, you're going to have them the minute we say goodbye. So don't hesitate to email either Dr. Francis or myself. We're here to help. We hope we see all of your faces soon. And yes, never hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I think Denise had a question, Dr. Atwater.
Oh, one more question. Yeah, sure.
Just want to check for the LPCC route. Was it 600 to 800 hours of clinical
600 for LPCC, 800 if you're doing schools as well, or if you're doing schools alone. And that is not our requirement. That's the state of California swooping in and saying, we want more hours of these interns. So what it looks like is about 25 to 30 hours a week. So during someone else asked about work experience. We have a lot of students working full-time while enrolled in the program and taking classes after. The only time that you're not able to work full-time is obviously during that internship year, for obvious reasons. If you're working 25 to 30 hours, right, at a school site or 20 in a clinic, then you really need to find part-time work. Yeah, so a lot of our students will drop down to part-time, or even just take some loans or some support from family just to get through that 6 months to a year that you're needing that support. All right. Anything else that I missed in the chat? Marianne, I know you're my guru there.
I think we got it all.
Okay, we got it. Okay.
Just a lot of thank yous right now.
Oh, great. Okay, everyone's ready to go eat dinner. Okay, have a great rest of your evening. Contact us with any questions. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.